Hey guys, it's Dan Sfera coming back to you from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. I forgot my iPad at home. I forgot my webcam at home, so I'm filming this for my Galaxy Note 2. But turns out it's got HD, so it's actually a pretty good camera. So anyways, apologize for the weird angle before we even get started. Today's video is going to be, I get questions all the time. I tell you guys I love the questions, keep them coming. It gives me idea for content. And I love that kind of stuff. Today's video is going to be about a IRB, Institutional Review Board, form. So when you start up a study, you send these IRB submission forms. It's basically site information questionnaires, things like that. When you work with a central IRB or a local IRB, they're going to ask you these things. But the local IRB most likely has something on file for you. So when you work with a central IRB, like most sites do, most clinics do, you're going to get something that looks like this. And it's a site information questionnaire. They want to find out about your site, about your PI. And I'm going to kind of walk you through some of the questions they ask, because I've been getting asked this question. So in section 1, you put in your principal investigator's information. So who your principal investigator is. They want their medical license number, the state, the expiration date of the medical license. Then they want to know the sponsor, who the sponsor is and what protocol number the particular study that you're submitting this for is. And before any study gets started, you're going to submit the site information questionnaire. It's part of the study startup for any study. And then you have ongoing IRB reviews. And if you want like much more detail on all this stuff, I have a 2-hour DVD, Introduction to Clinical Research. I sell it on my blog. Just go there, click on it. I mean, it's like $100, and some courses charge like thousands of dollars. But I compress everything you need to know about clinical trials from a research center's perspective in under 2 hours. And then I have some bonus DVDs, but shameless plug. So then they ask if the research is federally funded. You check yes or no. They have a thing for Canadian sites there. You don't need to obviously answer that if you're not. Then they want to know your primary research facility, the phone numbers. The phone numbers you provide will be included on your consent form. Then you put a contact person for who will be the contact person with the IRB. It does not have to be the principal investigator. It can be the study coordinator. It generally is. Then they want to know information about the principal investigator. So they want to have, all investigators must include the documents listed below. The CV, they want to know if any audits have happened from the FDA, OHRP, Canadian Ministry of Health, or other regulatory agencies. And they want to know, if so, they want to have copies of the reports. So for example, like a FDA 483 form, a warning letter, etc. And these are within the past 3 years, so any audits. Has any sponsor or ethical review board suspended or terminated any study at this facility or by the principal investigator? Again, check yes or no. And if it is yes, you can attach a letter of explanation. The next section, section 5, potential conflict of interest. Does the PI's immediate family, their research staff, or research staff's immediate family have any financial or other relationship with the sponsor or study-related entities that present or appear to present a conflict of interest? And if there is yes, you attach a completed review conflict of interest statement, which can be found on most IRB's websites. Most IRBs on their websites now, they have all the forms on there. This, you just Google whatever your IRB is that you're using, Google it, and click on. Just navigate around their website, look for the forms, you'll be able to find it. Human research participant training. So please indicate that human research participant training that the principal has completed within the past 3 years. So any training, human research participant protection training. And if you buy my DVD, I talk a lot about this, where you can find those links and all that stuff. They want documentation of that. Has the PI confirmed that the research staff and key personnel at this facility have been trained and are aware of their obligations with regard to human research participant protection? And then they want information about the primary research facility, what study visits will occur at this facility, what study activities will occur at this facility. Is it Administrative and regulatory activity? Is it informed consent discussions, screenings, ongoing study visits, specific procedures associated with study? Generally, it's all of them. You would check all of them, but some clinics have different things done at different places, and that's fine. Please describe the facility. Is it a private group practice, a hospital, university, research dedicated facility, or a residential facility? And then indicate the number of research staff the PI will supervise for this study. So they include how many sub-Is, how many coordinators, and then other staff, such as RNs, regulatory specialists, etc. Indicate the number of research studies the PI is currently conducting. So this is important because they don't want, they'll approve the PI, but they don't want to. They want to make sure that the PI is not overworked and that he has adequate staff to handle all the studies that he or she is doing. So it says if the answer is over 10. So this is part 2 of the video before I got interrupted by a phone call. I am recording this on my phone. If the PI is conducting more than 10 studies, you complete the following questions. Number of research staff that the PI supervises, number of the facilities that the PI supervises, and the approximate number of active research participants from all studies. So they want to, again, the IRB's role is to make sure that no harm is being done to subjects, no intentional harm, and then obviously no indirect harm because the PI might be overworked and may not have enough study staff. Local jurisdiction issues. Does another review board have jurisdiction over this study? For example, is the PI affiliated with an institution that has its own IRB? Will a participant be registered in a hospital? These are for the inpatient studies. Will any research procedures occur in a hospital where there's another IRB there? These are things that you need to find out. Is the PI, so these are like other IRB questions if there's more than one IRB. Privacy of study participants. Will your site use the following practices to safeguard the privacy of study participants? The site will consent participants in a private setting away from the public. The site will provide barriers or a private setting if when participants are required to disrobe. The site will not collect sensitive or personal information about a participant that is not necessary for the research. So again, they're making sure that you're following privacy standards for your study participants. Confidentiality of study data. So paper records will be secured physically, example, locked filing cabinets. Electronic records will be protected with electronic safeguards such as passwords, access privileges, firewalls. Any participant identifying information will be protected from improper use and disclosure, such as anonymization and de-identification, which is the standard in research. And then they want to know how you're going to recruit study participants. Is it from the PI's clinical practice, a database that your clinic may have, referrals from other practices, advertising in the community, or other? Pretty self-explanatory. Then they have a check mark for compensation. Will participants be compensated? You can either check yes or no. And then they want to know how much per visit or per completed study. You check those. Reimbursement. Will reimbursement for costs incurred, such as parking and things like that, will you reimburse for parking or travel? And will you give gifts? Like, for example, some studies, we just did a video on this the other day, give like retention gifts. Like, we have a study they recently gave every subject who reaches a certain visit, like a massager, a little massaging device. Just little things like that to encourage retention. And so you have to list those on here. And when will reimbursement be given? At each visit, after they complete the study, or after the final visit. Consent form. Do you wish to use the consent form developed by the sponsor and the board? Most sites will put yes. And then the address to appear on the consent form. And then they talk about the consent process. Will the informed consent process for participants adhere to the following principles? And again, I talk about all this in my DVD in great detail. But it's basically informed consent will be obtained prior to any study procedures. Person conducting the process will spend as much time as necessary to thoroughly explain and respond to the questions. The consent form will be signed and dated by the participant and the research staff member obtaining it. A copy will be given to the participant. An assessment of the participant's understanding will be done, and any additional local laws will be honored, such as California Bill of Rights, things like that. And then they ask if you're going to enroll from any vulnerable populations. So adults, minors, things like that. People who are economically disadvantaged, people who have diminished mental capabilities. You have to answer those questions. Will you enroll non-English speaking participants? Yes or no? If yes, you have to have people who will be available to interpret the informed consent for the participant, or you have a informed consent in that language. Let's see, pregnant women, either yes or no. Physically handicapped, and any other vulnerable population. So they want to know who you're going to be enrolling. And then where will you keep the drug or the device, including the placebo? And will the following measures be put in place? All drugs will be stored in a secure area. Access to the drugs will be limited to authorized research personnel. Then they want to know about your emergency measures. So it's a lot of things that they want to know about, but it's when you go through each section, it's pretty self-explanatory. Do you have a crash cart? Do you have an ER next to you, within close proximity? Do you have access to 911? And then they ask for the PI to sign it at the end. Hopefully this helps. Sorry it was broken up into 2 videos, but that's what happens when you record things on your phone. Thank you, and I want to give a shout out to all my guru producers: Sarah Elizabeth Siegler, Resolve Research Solutions, Accurate Clinical Trials, Earnhardt Clinical Trials, PTNR, Patrick Stone. We have Darshan Kulkarni, Biopharm Systems, Zymewire, Mozio, South Coast Clinical Trials, and Breakthrough Clinical Trials. And check out my DVD, Introduction to Clinical Research. Everything you need to know compressed in 2 hours. Thank you very much.